Okay. All right, good morning, friends. I'm going to get this volume up just a touch. All right, welcome to Journey Home Meditation's Morning Sit. Thanks for being here, and thank you for being here. Let's just have a few moments to settle in before we get started. Today we're going to have a little bit of shared breathing practice, and I think we might go right into some contemplation and poetry, but we'll see. We'll see. Maybe we'll meander a bit. But whatever it is that we get ourselves into this morning, I'm just happy to be here to get into it. So take a few moments to settle into your seat, to your body, wherever you are right now. Let's catch our breath. Begin to adjust your breathing. We're going to breathe in through the nose to the bottom of the belly. Trying to allow our chest to be still as the abdomen rises and lowers. This practice is done so that we are fully engaging our diaphragm downward into our body. Breathing in through the nose makes the body have to work just a little bit harder to get the breath fully into the body. And in doing this, we're not attempting to create struggle, but we are stretching our internal systems the same way we would stretch our arms wide open for a yawn or bend our back in the morning to stretch our bodies in that way. We're stretching the inside of our systems. And there's a lot of benefits to breathing through the nose and into the abdomen, but the main one that I find is that as I'm breathing in that way, I'm sending a pretty consistent message to my body that I'm in a safe place. I don't need to be prepared to run, to flee, or to fight, or don't have to be on guard. Because those are the messages that we give in subtle ways to our bodies when we breathe through our mouths into our chest. It's just a biological function. It really has very little to do with our thought process or our emotions, but our thought process and our emotions end up being affected on the other end of this. As the body is preparing itself for some sort of an altercation, then it will send adrenaline and cortisol to our bodies. And the small drip of those things in our system kind of put us on edge, keep us alert. And I think that a lot of this comes through as anxiety for us in our days. And it can eventually pattern itself as impatience or the inability to sit and focus for long periods of time, irritability, all of these things. And I noticed this in myself, that when I began the practice of intentionally breathing in a different way, I noticed that over time my body makeup started changing and my emotional state started shifting. So that's why I really promote this practice every day, just because of the way that I've seen it work in my body. So I think that's enough talk about that. Let's just do some breathing together. I'm going to invite the bell again, and when I do, we'll just begin breathing in through the nose, gently and fully, and then breathing out. You can breathe out through the mouth or the nose. It's up to you. But be sure to breathe out as fully as you can, really allowing the body to close in on itself and contract entirely. Okay. And breathing in. As you move through the practice, begin to notice where you might have tension or blockages in your body. If you're breathing in and you feel a tightness or a pain somewhere in your back or your chest, it might just be asking you to make the smallest of adjustments in your posture. So try straightening your spine a bit, and using a cushion under your butt can really help with the alignment of the spine. Check the position of your hands. It's a small thing, but moving your hands from facing palm down to palm up, it helps the shoulders to just roll open a little bit, opening the chest, and then bring the shoulder blades together just a bit in the back. We don't need to fully open, but just a touch in the back to open our chest and open our hearts just a bit. It can make a big difference. Breathing in. Listen to your body. This is not a practice of pushing through discomfort and pain. I want to distinguish between those two things, though. But if you're feeling like you're getting some signals from the body that you're not sitting in a position that's going to facilitate this practice, then making that adjustment is really important. And what's also true is you might start to feel some discomfort coming up. You might start getting messages from your body like that you need to scratch an itch or stand up. You might start feeling your mind wanting to be distracted. When you start to close your eyes, it might want to open them to look around. There's a difference in our body's coping mechanisms and our body's signaling. Sometimes our coping mechanisms, when we begin to feel a little discomfort, is to distract, is to find a reason to get up and move, to walk away from a situation, to shut down the mind and focus on something else. We can change subjects when we're in the middle of difficult conversations. All of these are coping mechanisms that we've developed to avoid feeling something that we aren't necessarily believing that we are prepared to feel. We start getting the discomfort of feeling rejection or abandonment, or like we did something wrong, maybe a little guilt or shame or some resentment towards somebody. And our body starts to sense that, and it has maybe a memory and a history of not being so skilled with those conversations or those feelings, so it wants to take us away. That discomfort it's okay to sit through that discomfort. But when you start to feel physical pains in your knees or your hips, your lower back, your chest, your neck, from the way that you're sitting, you don't necessarily need to fight your way through those things. So this is a nonviolent practice. So we want to keep a practice of nonviolence against our body, and recognizing the difference between what is pain and what is emotional discomfort can be really difficult, because our bodies use the exact same pathways to send signals of pain and discomfort. So we might be actually reading our emotional discomfort as physical pain. And it doesn't mean that physical pain isn't real. If you feel pain, it's real. Pain is pain. But being able to step behind the pain to see what is there. Is there injury occurring? Then shift, change, move through. Is there an opening of an old wound? Well, that's something different entirely. Both of them can feel equally as painful and equally as uncomfortable. But when we are opening an old wound, we're actually creating an opportunity for resolution. We are entering into a relationship that needs tending with ourselves. Sometimes we aren't equipped for that in the moment, or we're not in the proper setting or space to necessarily get into that. And that takes a level of tact and grace that we don't always have access to recognize that. But when we're in this practice, sitting safely on our cushions or in our chairs or in our vehicles, wherever you are in this moment, creating just enough safety to dip your toes into that feeling, that experience of, can I sit with this discomfort? Just sit with it. Maybe long enough to recognize its shape or remember its name, whatever it is. And then bring yourself back out of it. This is how we build the internal fortitude to sit with our own pain. And this is going to be invaluable for our relationships, because most of our relationships is having fun between the times when we sit with each other's pain. That's really what it comes down to. I read somewhere that when you enter into a relationship with someone, you enter into a relationship with their entire childhood. I've been thinking about that a lot lately. And the ways in which my entire childhood comes out in the ways that I relate to the people as an adult right now. It's pretty phenomenal. So this practice is the gift that we have to enter into a wholeness with ourselves that will give us an opportunity to be there so much more fully in our relationships. So there's a lot of thank yous that need to be spoken there. There's a lot of gratitude that can be held, even for the pain. So let's have a little patience with ourselves as we find ourselves recovering a bit of what we may have lost in our game of hide and go seek from the pain. That's what recovery is. Recovery doesn't mean that you're stopping this or stopping that. In the world of substance use disorder, recovery, oftentimes it's thought of as long as I stay sober, I'm recovering. But recovering means to get something back. It means to get it back. What you may have lost. What you may have thought you lost. A wholeness of some sort that you've been trying to fill with all of the things that are just disappearing. It's like the story of the hungry ghost. And the Buddhist realm of hungry ghost is a realm of people who, there's different interpretations and different tellings of the story, but whose mouths are really small and bellies are really big, and they can never be satiated. So they consume and consume and consume something, but can never be satiated. And this is a great understanding for addiction and for the ways that we consume without nourishment. Something we were actually just talking about right before the sit. Full bellies, empty bodies. But that hole that you have that can't be filled with external things, that's what this practice is coming into a wholeness with the whole and allowing it to be filled with the presence of yourself. That's what's been missing. So we're going to continue our practice of working through Bell Hook's phenomenal work, Appalachian Elegy. Bring that up to the camera. We have been discovering over the works of this poem that somehow magically the piece that we work each day has something to do with something that we're experiencing. So, and I'm not reading ahead, so that's always a pleasant surprise when they align. We'll see what today has to offer. This is number 17. Straight ahead, the road curves. Signs signal no motorboats allowed. This lake, our water source, let us drink, clear and true. There are swans resting here, magical presence, all reflecting peace. I'm going to read it again. Straight ahead, the road curves. Signs signal no motorboats allowed. This lake, our water source. Let us drink clear and true. There are swans resting here. Magical presence. All reflecting peace. And you can really see what it is the poet is seeing. You know, it's funny, I even have swans tattooed, reflecting swans tattooed on my arm. I see it every day. But you see this image of the swan just sort of gracefully existing in a space where it seems improbable. The way that these waterfowl can just float in between the worlds, right? It's improbable. It's like this Christ-like experience of walking on the water. They're just doing this. And it's so gracefully and with such beauty. And you can see that the poet is seeing this reflection, and it's this place that the poet can't go. You know, we can go into the pond, we can go into the lake, but we can't exist there. We can be there for short times. But we can sit back on the edge of this thing, this depth, and witness this beautiful calm and peace. And I love the way that the poet started this off with this like seeming contradiction. Straight ahead the road curves. Straight ahead the road curves. Even going straight ahead, we're going to go around and dips and bends, and we're going to be topsy and turvy, and we're going to experience things that we don't see, things we don't see coming. But bringing it back to that recognition, that understanding, you know, when she says this lake, our water source, let us drink clear and true. And then she goes right into talking about what it is that she's seeing, that we're drinking from. What is our source? And she says, all reflecting peace. And that's the question, is the peace the source, or is the peace being reflected because it's us? It's just an interesting relationship that this poet has in this moment. Recognizing some boundaries and what's important. And I think for me, that's That's it. There's a lot there for what it is to look for beauty outside of yourself, only to come to an understanding at some point that it's a reflection of peace. It's a reflection. Maybe that's why we struggle and become so insecure when it comes to being loved, because something kind of taps you into that and plugs you in, and it was something you've been looking for, or something that, no, it's not it. It's not something you're looking for. It plugs you into this thing that you can see how beautiful it is. You just forget that it's a reflection. And, the motorboats part of the poem, for me, it's fully about being impatient, creating these ways of moving through our world that are haphazard and damaging. She reminds us, this lake, our water source. These motorboats represent a way of life that destroys that which gives us nourishment. And maybe that's the way we move into our relationships with one another and move through our practices. We have billions and billions of dollars being spent on supplements and drugs and workout programs and apps. There's apps that turn off your phone. We pay for an app that turns off our phone because we can't turn off our phone. We're in these motorboats when the source is right there, right beneath us. Maybe it's just right in that breath. Beautiful poem, beautiful poet. Really grateful to be working through this book with this practice. So thank you to bell hooks. And thank you to the swans and their reflection. And I think with that, we're going to go for the day. A couple more breaths together and we'll say goodbye. I've been studying a lot of these practices for a number of years, and it seems that whenever I study with a monk who might be from a tradition of Vietnam, or like a Vietnamese Buddhist tradition or Thai Buddhist tradition, they often say at the end of the practice, allow a smile to come to your face. And I always thought, why would I do that? And then over time, I start to recognize, oh yeah, I don't have to necessarily always feel the thing. I don't have to, when I smile, it invites the feeling as well. That's what I'm trying to say. So I find myself wanting to pass that tradition on at the end of the practice. Say, allow a smile to come to your face. But maybe we'll just begin with allow the gratitude to come to your heart and see what happens. Thanks for being here. Hariom.